Hey everybody, it's Dad again, week two. I, of course, I've been thinking about God this week, and God is not just some cosmic force in the universe that is lofty and high and only um, an energy or something like that. God is, he's someone who loves you. He's someone who takes care of you. He's actually interested in the various things that are going on in your life. He is interested when you wake up in the morning. He's interested what time you go to bed, what you do in your time that you have in this world, how you talk, what you read, what you put in your mind, how you interact with other people, how you interact with your children, how you interact with your siblings, how you interact with your parents, how you interact with your boss or your wife or your husband. God is interested in all those little things. I, of course, believe that God is also interested in what you eat and what you wear and all those things as well. Even the small things that we probably just take for granted, I believe God's interested in all those things. And one of the things that we can do, I think, when things are not going well, is we can think that life is just out to get us. And in some ways, the world is just a dangerous and destructive place to live. And you have to be careful. You got to be careful not to get discouraged by that. And certainly we make choices that sometimes lend towards a punishment from God to get our attention, to help us to become better at living, at being his servant. And I was just thinking this week, and I was talking with Becker yesterday about the concept of God, and in the way that when we focus our attention on him, when we focus our service toward him and trying to make him delighted with us and blessing him, then the other things in our life can sort of, I don't know, they tend to work out a little better. And I don't do that. I don't say that as like a manipulation of God. Like if we do something, he's going to do something back. Although I think that we kind of know that there is a cause and effect there, that when we bless God and we honor him with what we think and what we do and how we spend our time, that he's more apt to bless us and lead our paths. It doesn't mean that we won't have hardships. It doesn't mean we don't have trials or difficulties or struggles, but we'll see those struggles and trials in a different light because we are still focused on serving our Creator. And if you have, let's just say that your view, the way you view God, affects how you behave in certain areas of your life. Let's just say you have a job that is just not what you want to be doing. You don't want to be working at this place, or you want to be in a different position, say, and you don't like the way it's going. If in that moment when you still recognize the fact that you need to have that job, even though it's not going the way you intended, if you focus your attention on doing the job to the best of your ability so that you're pleasing God and you're making him happy because you are his servant, he is your employer. When you do that, then the troubles associated with the job itself tend to fade away. They don't go completely away, and it doesn't mean that you can't go out and look for something that's more up your alley or do something that's more enjoyable to you or whatever. But it takes the focus off of the job being the ultimate thing, and it puts the focus on God being our Creator and the one whom we are serving. And I think we can look to Joseph's life for that, right? He was put in these situations where he had a pretty rough break. He was put in situations where he was a servant, he was treated poorly, he was kidnapped, whatever it was. And every time he had a job, he seemed like he did it with, like, I don't know, he had a good attitude. He was doing it for God's sake. And even when we see that he was tested in Potiphar's house by Potiphar's wife, he was able to resist Potiphar Potiphar's wife, because he said, "How can I do such a thing and sin against God?" It wasn't. Yes, he knew he was sinning against his master. He even said that, right? His master had given him control over everything in his house except for the wife, and so he recognized that the ultimate one that he was trying to serve or please was God. And so I think it's like that same thing I was just saying, where if we are interested in pleasing God, then our troubles seem to be of lesser effect on us. And we see Joseph later in his life, having to succumb to being thrown into prison unfairly, and he was still a servant of God. He still did what was right. He served, and then God blessed him for it. And when he got to the high position when he got out, he was the viceroy of Egypt. Then we see that he still served God. He served God no matter if he was at the lowest in the dungeon or if he was at the highest, on being the leader of Egypt at the time. I think we need to see God the same way, that we serve him in a way that brings us blessing, but also minimizes our troubles or minimizes the effect, I guess, of having a job or a situation that we just don't like. So let's just say some of us are married, Blue and Becker and Hadassah and Hammock are married, and you all have spouses, and sometimes marriage doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. It's a little more challenging than you thought it would be. When you focus your attention on God and pleasing him, then you'll please your mate, because part of loving God is loving your mate. Part of loving God is doing well at your job. Part of loving God is being a good person to other people, loving your neighbor as yourself. You can't separate those two things out. God is he is the one that we need to focus our attention on, so that when we love him, then we love him by loving his creatures, by loving our neighbor, by loving our wives, our husbands, by loving our children, by loving those around us, by serving those around us. That's how we show our love of God. We take the focus off of the thing that is bothering us, let's say, or the thing that we're being challenged by, and we put that focus on God. And when we do that, then we're able to serve him. And then it seems like our other troubles or other hardships tend to go away. And some of us, maybe we haven't looked at that in that way. And for that reason, maybe we have to see God in a different light than we've seen him before. Not as necessarily as a rule giver, although he is a rule giver, but not just as a rule giver. Someone who actually cares about you, who's watching over you, not just to peer into your life and make you miserable, but because he cares about you and he knows what it takes to be in this world and live according to his rules. And so if you focus on just pleasing him and making sure that every moment of your day is filled with good things, and not doing things that you're embarrassed to talk about, or embarrassed to get caught in, or saying things that are evil and that you wouldn't want repeated, or thinking things that might go against what you should be thinking, then I think we'll please God in all things, and then our lives will be better. Not because I'm not saying we're trying to eliminate trials and tribulations. Those things are there just to test us. When we have something go wrong in our lives, certainly we have to realize that we're being punished for something, perhaps, or just God allowed it for his purposes. We don't know, but even in those times, we need to continue to serve him and do what is right. It's a test to see what's really in us. And one of my things that I do when I'm tested is I get frustrated. I get angry. That's my go-to emotion is anger. And I don't like that about myself. It takes a lot of energy for me to control that anger. It doesn't mean I'm a hothead all the time. It just means that that's my tendency, and I recognize that, and I need to temper that. So when I do get angry, I can't push myself to the point where I forget that God exists while I'm being angry. I have to keep God in mind, like I'm angry right now, but I must please my Creator in the way that I react in this moment, how I talk to this other person, what I say when I am talking. Am I going to get so far in my frustration that I have to become vulgar to make my point? Am I going to get so frustrated that I have to be louder to make my point? Yeah, sometimes I do that. I'm sorry that I do. It's embarrassing for me to have to admit it. It's embarrassing for me in the moment when I do it. I don't like that about myself. But recognizing that God is there and that I need to change that about me makes me try to be a better person even in the moment. Just not letting myself get that far if uh, by putting some things in place to keep me from doing that. And the reason that's on my head is because I got angry this last week. I got frustrated at a situation in our house that angered me and frustrated me, and then I began to try to find, the source of why I was feeling angry, what was going on, and in doing so, I started to get angry for certain people who are involved in the situation, and it wasn't good of me. It wasn't good of me the way I reacted. It was actually kind of, I'm embarrassed to have to admit that I was frustrated to the beyond where I should have been, and I didn't hit anybody or anything like that, but I got in people's face and I was angry about it, and I need to temper that, and I need to control that part of my life. And there may be things in your life that you need to control. Maybe it's not anger. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's you want to drink a beer when you get angry or frustrated, or when you want to escape or whatever. And nothing wrong with drinking a beer, of course, but we all have our ways to escape. We all have our ways to deal with our problems. And we shouldn't, we should try to find good ways to be able to deal with them so that we can be a blessing to God, in those moments. Otherwise, we may sin. Just the whole point here, of course, is just to recognize that God is watching. He's paying attention, not because he's just trying to, be this overlord, but because he cares for you. He cares about what you're doing. He cares about what you're thinking. He cares about how you're speaking and all those things. He does care. And hopefully you can find ways to bless him. If you want to know how to bless God, you have to read his scriptures, of course, in the Torah. And the Torah tells us what God likes, how he likes to be worshiped, how he likes to be thanked. And we do have so much to be grateful for. I hope that all of you can find a good way to serve your Creator, to serve God. And in doing so, I know you're going to receive many blessings. I hope that you have a great week. I love each one of you, and I love what God is doing in your life. I love where we are here in Montana and what the Lord is doing here. He's growing something, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be a part of what he's doing, and I hope that all of you can be a part as well. At least you can in your prayers. So I love you all, and I miss you if you're not around me, and I hope to see all of you soon, and I hope this is a blessing to you. May the Lord bless you and give you a great and peaceful week. Shalom.